Hi, I'm Rosie Stano, Senior Product Consultant at Candyspace, and I help digital leaders select the right platforms to deliver on their business needs and their customer needs. I'm delighted to be joined today by Mark Wakelin, who is Lead Value and Strategy Consultant at Optimizely, to discuss when you should select a CMS or a DXP and the value that it can bring to your business. So Mark, can you tell us what are the key advantages of a DXP over more traditional CMS platforms, specifically for businesses who are looking to scale?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question that we get quite a lot. I think the core advantages will come down to where do you want to take your digital experience in the next few years? DXPs are great because they have the additional capabilities outside of just core content delivery as part of them. So if, for instance, you want that flexibility of being able to add on additional software or features, like, for instance, personalization or more content governance and storage and so forth, DXPs offer that, and they're typically fully integrated, so you don't have to worry about managing the relationships between different complex systems that you would if you just went down a more traditional CMS route and then built the rest of the tech stack around that. It also gives you that future proofing so that you don't have to worry about going and finding additional vendors for those different functions that you're missing out on. And it typically comes with a reduced total cost of ownership because you're just working with one vendor, one contract and one team.
That's great. So what I'm hearing is a really rich feature set within one roof, and that is not just there to meet sort of the needs of your business today, but anticipate what your future needs and what your future customer needs might be as well.
Yeah, it's one of the key evaluation criteria when looking at a CMS, because you're not going to re-platform your CMS every 2 years. Most of the time, it's a minimum 5-year investment, if not more. Like the average customer lifetime, the average contract life at Optimizely is over 10 years. So you're investing in a CMS for the long run. Yes, the CMS capabilities themselves are incredibly important because that is what you're going to be using day to day. But it is also around what is the vision of that company, what is the vision of the wider suite, and how can you then unlock some of those additional capabilities in the future. Even if you don't want them now, it's nice to have the confidence that they are there, and they, in some cases, are just as simple as switching something on versus having to go through a whole complex vendor analysis process.
And it's great to see that you guys at Optimizely have heaps and heaps of vision, and congratulations. I know that you've just been named leader in the 2025 Gartner Magic Quadrant for Digital Experience Platforms. So yeah, congratulations, much deserved.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Optimizely's vision and one of the reasons why we get that recognition, which we're incredibly happy about, is because for us, as a DXP, we want to give our customers, first of all, the best technology. So if you look at the individual components of our suite, they are all leaders within their own quadrants and have been for many, many years. Our optimization and personalization suite is a leader. Our content marketing platform is a leader. Our vision has been to acquire the best technologies out there. But we also want to give our customers choice as well. One of the things that gets called out in those analyst reports is our ability to be more of a composable suite as well, meaning we have customers that just have our experimentation tools, we have customers that just have our content management tools. We want you to be able to integrate those with other systems and essentially build the tech stack that works for you, whilst giving you the confidence that you can add those different elements on because Optimizely manages all that integration for you. So if you do need a personalization tool, we have that. If you do need a experimentation tool, again, that's something that you can add on. And if you need more of the content side and content creation piece, we have that as well. And everything that we have is market leader within its own right.
And what do you think, Mark, that businesses should prioritize when they're selecting a new DXP or CMS?
So the first thing is, how easy is the CMS and DXP actually to use? Like, how easy is it to create content, create pages, create templates? How easy is it to scale the output that you're trying to achieve? Like, what is the time to market going to be? If you need to create a new web page or you need to create a new campaign, how easy is it going to be within the CMS? That has to be the number one capability, because that is what you're using the CMS for. How is it going to make your lives easier today versus what your current CMS looks like? On top of that, though, there is the future of the CMS and where the wider company vision is going. Like, what are they investing in, and does that match with your vision as a company as well? For instance, you may only be interested in the CMS. You may not be interested in any of the wider capabilities of a DXP, in which case it's probably more important that they're having a very technical focus on capabilities that will make your life easier as someone implementing and managing a CMS. Whereas if your company vision is more around how do we expand and increase our digital experience and the offerings we're giving to our customers, that's where something where other tools that can complement the CMS might be a little bit more important. And then there is also the analyst reports like Gartner and Forrester and so forth. They're a nice way of validating and giving you an idea of, okay, what CMSs are out there, what is the market going for, but also what is the future look like. They're typically at the forefront of what is happening within each company's CMS offering. And usually that positioning is a great way of saying, look, okay, this company is on the up, or this company is maybe a little bit further down. And that can be a nice way of validating if your decision is correct, and also giving you an idea of other CMSs that you may not have thought about.
Absolutely. And I think you raise a really interesting point around ease of use. We talk a lot about that end customer user experience, but actually really thinking about what's the marketer, the content editor experience like as well, because the marketing digital teams have got to be using the platform day to day, and speed to market is so important.
Yeah, at Optimizely, we found from speaking to our customers, around 85% of the content journey happens outside of the CMS. So it's really important that it is easy and it is simple for marketers without too much technical knowledge to be able to make changes. You don't want your speed to market being hampered by a very complex CMS that requires developers at all stages and all steps. You want your developers focusing on actually making the experience better, and you want your marketers being able to create, whether that's creating more content, creating more campaigns, or just creating better content. And that is where making sure you've got that balance between, okay, having a CMS that is easy to use for the developers to set things up in the first place, but also allows marketers the flexibility to go on and make changes and make updates and let them be creative, because that's what marketers are there for. They're not there to be developers updating a CMS, they're there to create more content and campaigns.
So it's great to see that Optimizely have recently launched a new headless SaaS CMS, and we've been really pleased that at Candyspace to be one of the first agencies globally to build a site in a SaaS CMS. I'm interested to know, Mark, when do you think is the right time for businesses to select a headless CMS?
So I think that's a question that we've seen in the market for the last several years, hence why we developed the SaaS product, because we know that there is a big transition into moving and having that flexibility of having both approaches, whether that is fully headless with SaaS or more traditional with a PaaS-headed solution. To me, it comes down to what is the main focus area of your digital experience. If it's just your website, that might make more sense to stay on a more traditional headed CMS, because it's much easier and simpler to deliver that experience. Whereas if you're moving into different channels, for instance, mobile, app, and other sort of delivery methods, that's where the headless approach really comes into its own, because it gives you more flexibility in how you deliver content. It also depends on who's going to be owning and governing the CMS. If you want it to be more of a IT-led approach, then headless is typically much more appropriate, because it requires more resources to manage the day-to-day and create some of those templates and workflows so that marketers can still access the tool and the system. But it comes down to how you as a company are set up. Do you have the resources and the experience to manage multiple integrations and interfaces? And if so, headless is a great way to go, because it gives that flexibility of delivery. If you don't yet have that expertise, that is where, for instance, you can work with some of our partners, Candyspace being one of them, to get some of that support to help you set up, so you can also get that advantage of going a little bit more flexible. But there's also a lot of companies that have decided to stick with more of the traditional PaaS CMS because they don't necessarily need to divert from the website being their main focal point.
So if you're a business and you're thinking of replatforming to Optimizely, what do you think are the key factors that make a good Optimizely partner, and what should people be looking for?
So I think the most important, at least to start when you're creating your shortlist of who some of those partners are, is sort of what is their experience, first of all, with Optimizely, but also what's their experience in your industry? What sort of references do they have from other customers, for instance, that they can show you that, so you have confidence that they know the specifics about your business better than others. But also, what's their expertise and experience with the platform? How many people do they have working specifically with Optimizely? How many Optimizely or OMVPs do they have? That's a great way of understanding, okay, how experienced is this partner? But on top of that, I think there's also, how can they help change and evolve your digital experience today? If you're going through a replatforming, usually the technology is one part of that, but it's a great way to have a bit more of a refocus on how do we evolve the digital experience that we have, and how do we improve that? How do we make it better? Getting some advice and guidance from your partner on what a better digital experience could look like would be something I would personally look for. And what is their track record in delivering that? And finally, how innovative are they? Optimizely as a platform, we've been continuously innovating with additional tools, like for instance, our purchase of our warehouse native analytics tool, NetSpring, which we're now calling Optimizely Analytics. We're going to be continuing to evolve. Are our partners doing that as well? So I'd also challenge them on, look, what have you done? How have you been adapting to Optimizely's evolution? What is your focus areas going to be? And as Optimizely evolves as a platform, how are you going to also evolve as a partner?
So Optimizely are the leading digital experience platform globally. What are you doing to keep up with evolving customer demands and pushing innovation?
So we have 3 strategic themes for this year, all of which are available online. We publish our entire yearly roadmap. I would say the biggest area of focus for us is on AI, how we can embed AI throughout our platform. So we launched Optimizely Opal last year. That is our banner for all things AI across our platform. And we've already invested quite heavily in AI features across how we can make content easier to create, how we can make experiments and personalization campaigns easier to analyze and deliver. But that is something we are really doubling down on this year, specifically with AI agents, so how we can actually make the lives of marketers much easier and much simpler. And I think that's probably the big theme for a lot of people this year. We're going to see AI. We're not going to see AI replace people, but we're going to see AI replace mundane tasks and make it much easier for marketers to actually do what they want to do. So rather than having someone's role to spend 30 hours managing projects and timelines, we're thinking, how can we automate those processes so that person can do what they're supposed to do? Create better content, create more campaigns, create more impactful performance from what they're doing. So AI is definitely a big focus. I wish I could give you more on what we're actually building, but a lot of it is going to be centered around how we can make that marketer journey and life cycle easier. And it's going to be embedded across all of our different solutions.
I love that. Free up marketers to be more creative and do the job that they're made to do and be more effective day to day.
Exactly. We're going to stop work about work. I think that's the call to action we've got internally.
Love that. So Mark, have you got any real world examples of a business selecting Optimizely and working with a partner to drive growth on the platform?
I do. I think one of my favorite examples is actually an example of a customer also working with Candyspace, and that's Mazda. So Mazda have sort of a network of around 80 dealerships across the UK, and they came to Optimizely because they wanted to improve consistency. They wanted those dealerships all to be saying the same thing, using the same layout and having a similar customer experience, all of which Mazda as a central hub could have a sort of voice in dictating what that could be. Because as a dealership, their role is not to build a digital experience. Their role is to sell cars. So what Mazda did is working really closely with Candyspace is they created a really rigid set of templates that were scalable across their entire dealership network so that everyone had that consistent experience. And not only were they able to increase things like session views and page views and so forth, they're able to actually link it back to goal completions. So Mazda saw across the board a 55% increase in leads. So people actually signing up to book a visit to the dealership. So that's one of my favorite examples of how you can take a CMS and use it to also evolve the digital experience and do something different and better.
Thank you so much for your time today, Mark. It's been great speaking with you and wonderful to hear about all of the wonderful innovations at Optimizely.
No, thank you so much for having me.